Get ready to satisfy your sweet tooth as I take on the challenge of baking the most moist and decadent gluten-free chocolate cake you've ever tasted. Today, we're going to dive into the world of gluten-free baking and create a show-stopping dessert that's not only delicious but also caters to those with dietary restrictions. Who says gluten-free means taste-free? We're about to prove that gluten-free can be just as decadent and moist as its traditional counterpart. When it comes to making gluten-free cakes, one of the biggest challenges is achieving that tender, moist texture. It's easy to end up with a dense, dry cake that's more like a brick than a treat. This is because gluten-free flours can behave very differently than traditional flours, and it takes some know-how to get them to work in harmony. Gluten-free baking often requires a combination of different flours, xanthan gum, and other specialized ingredients to mimic the binding properties of gluten. And even with the right ingredients, it's still possible to end up with a cake that's tough or crumbly. But don't worry, we're going to break down the secrets to achieving that perfect, moist texture. Another common mistake is not adjusting the liquid content of the recipe. Gluten-free flours tend to absorb more liquid than traditional flours, so it's essential to add a little extra moisture to the mix. This can be as simple as adding an extra egg or increasing the amount of oil or butter in the recipe. In addition to getting the ingredient ratios just right, it's also crucial to pay attention to the mixing process. Overmixing can be disastrous in gluten-free baking, leading to a tough, dense cake. So, we'll be using a gentle folding technique to combine our wet and dry ingredients. Moving on to the ingredients, we'll be using a combination of almond flour, coconut flour, and rice flour to create a delicate, tender crumb. Dark cocoa powder will give our cake its rich, chocolatey flavor, while coconut sugar adds a hint of sweetness. And of course, we can't forget the star of the show, high-quality dark chocolate chunks for that indulgent, gooey center. Our first step is to preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and prepare our cake pans with some non-stick spray. While that's heating up, we'll whisk together our almond flour, coconut flour, rice flour, cocoa powder, and baking soda in a large mixing bowl. Next, we'll combine our coconut sugar, eggs, and melted coconut oil in a separate bowl, whisking until smooth and creamy. Then, we'll gently fold our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients, being careful not to overmix. Now it's time to add in those decadent dark chocolate chunks and fold them into the batter until they're evenly distributed. Divide the mixture evenly between our prepared pans and smooth out the tops. Pop our cakes into the oven and let them bake for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. While our cakes are baking, we can prepare our chocolate ganache by melting together some more dark chocolate and coconut cream in a double boiler. Once our cakes are done, we'll let them cool in the pans for about 10 minutes before transferring them to a wire rack to cool completely. In the moment of truth, slicing into that first layer and revealing the moist, tender crumb within. In conclusion, achieving that perfect, moist texture in gluten-free baking requires a little patience, practice, and know-how. But with the right ingredients and techniques, you can create show-stopping desserts that are just as delicious as their traditional counterparts. If you give this recipe a try at home, be sure to share your feedback in the comments below. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more gluten-free dessert ideas and recipe tutorials. Thanks for joining me in the kitchen today, and I'll see you in the next video.